Joining us now, United States Marine Corps and Army National Guard veteran John Byrnes. He's also the strategic director of Concerned Veterans for America. Thank you so much for your time, sir, this morning. European leaders are pushing for security guarantees for Ukraine. Militarily, what might that look like as part of these discussions?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. As to security guarantees for Ukraine, I think the best outcome that Ukraine can really hope for is a kind of a state of armed neutrality. They're certainly not going to be able to join NATO if they want the war to stop, and Ukraine really needs the war to stop. I think a kind of a strategic framework for Europe where NATO reinforces itself. It does not let Ukraine into the club, so to speak, but it provides guarantees to the Russians that Ukraine will remain neutral, but that it's in the interest of NATO, the West, the European Union, that Ukraine remain whole as well. Whole in that Ukraine remain an independent state, borders to be determined, shall we say.
Multinational peacekeeping force, that's another idea that has been floated. What would that involve? And would it also involve the U.S. if it were to come to that?
Well, it could involve a lot of different looks. It could involve European nations being stationed in Ukraine. I think it's a very fraught situation if that happens. If any of those nations are NATO nations and there is a resumption of hostilities after a ceasefire with peacekeeping force, then you're looking at a greater war. You're looking at the potential of the U.S. being dragged into war, and that's absolutely problematic. Russia still remains one of the largest nuclear powers on the planet, one of the most capable militaries in spite of all their setbacks, and they are essentially slowly winning the war in Ukraine.
What concerns you the most about Putin's ultimate objective, which it has always been, and that's claim all of that territory, but also some of the recent moves and maneuvers with battlefield gains, even as recent as last night with continued strikes?
Well, peace negotiations are always fraught. Getting a state that's got the advantage to give up pushing that advantage during peace negotiations is nearly impossible. Little circumspect about the outcome of this particular meeting, but it's a good restart to the process. As I mentioned, Ukraine can't win. They're lacking in material and manpower. They are losing. They really need peace. And there are really only three possible ways that this ends. That's a negotiated peace, which is the best, a prolonged or wider war, neither of which would be good for Ukraine or Europe, or finally a complete Ukrainian defeat, which certainly wouldn't be good for them either. So the best outcome is following this peace process, as laborious as it is, as back and forth as it is, and as much as it seems to reward the bad actor here, Putin, it's still probably the best outcome that the Ukrainians can hope for.
Yeah, the best road to some sort of peace. John Byrnes, thank you, sir, for your time and for your service.